Why is no one playing Alliance? Too boring, bland? And that's a good question.
It's been no secret that a lot more people have been playing the Horde than they have been playing the Alliance recently and not so recently. It is hard to give legit stats as this always varies from region to region and server to server, but on some occasions...
Is it really that bad? To me, it felt like more like maybe 55 to 45%, but here we even have 83% to 16% and holy shit, 60 to 39. Yo, but I'm gonna be honest, like I play Alliance on Silvermoon, and sometimes I feel like I see more Horde players on Silvermoon than Alliance players. And if you're looking for the most Alliance populated server on EU, like everyone says go Silvermoon, go Silvermoon. And when I'm on freaking Silvermoon, I see so many Horde players, so yeah, it's definitely probably like that. Like that's also how I feel while exploring the world of Azeroth.
There are 90% Horde players and alliances all but non-existing, causing grouping to become nearly impossible, even on super high activity days like patch days. It isn't the lore, this really is the true reason they added cross-faction grouping in order to balance this out, because it definitely started becoming a serious issue. However, the actual question is, why is this the case? Is it the racials? Is the alliance just too boring? Are the races just too generic and bland? Right? And why are so many people choosing to play the Horde over the Alliance? Guys, I have something really cool to show you, and that is a really unique mobile game that sponsored this video, Heroes of the Dark. Two things made this game really stand out.
A sponsor cannot be missing with Doran's movies, right?
It has a really unique vampire-esque art style, but also the fact that this is a mix between strategy and an RPG. The entire game is set on your mansion, your base operations that you can upgrade, enhance, which I gotta say is really addicting. Then from this base you can do a whole bunch of PvP and PvE. You have a lot of heroes you can unlock and level up, from vampires, werewolves to humans, and then you can send them on missions, you can attack other players,
I hate sending NPCs on missions in WoW.
Really
so boring.
Focus on constantly improving your base and expanding the hero pool. My favorite is Beersheba von Merrimont and just how he sits on the throne like a true vampire lord. Best of all, the game is available for Android, iOS, and your PC. Took me a few days to really deck out my mansion, and you can do the same, as it has never been a better time to start. So click the link in the description, download the game, and join me right now. And if you click my link, you will get a $15 vampire Countess Magla to immediately start your journey in Tenebris. One of the most recently added features that changed World of Warcraft to the core, the game forever, is the addition of cross-faction groups.
Yeah, it definitely helped a lot.
This makes complete sense. It really wasn't done for the lore, but in order to fix this major issue that really made the game quite unplayable.
I experienced that a lot. That's the reason why I leveled up an Orc Hunter on the Horde side. Because I had the problem, like sometimes I wanted to do keys, and to find one single person took me sometimes 20 minutes for just one person. And then I must convince this person, hey, please wait another 20 minutes because we are looking for more people. Like, it was horrible. Like, if I tried to make a group, like, if I tried to join a group, it took a long time sometimes, because I feel like there were few groups and it took too long to actually get together and stuff. It was very horrible. And if I made a group myself and I had a key, like let's say I had a plus 12 key or something, for example, and I wanted to make a group, it would take eternity if I queue up. Like sometimes 30-40 minutes, I still didn't have a group. It took like almost an hour sometimes. Depending also on the hour you play. I'm a person that's quite nocturnal, I would say, so I was often playing in like nighttime and stuff, and there it was even way tougher to find people on the Alliance side to do freaking keys with. Like, it was horrible. But now with cross-faction, it's actually good because you can play with like others and stuff. It's very, very, very nice. And lore-wise, we have often been working together with the Horde and Alliance together to solve issues like Shadowlands. We are together, and Legion we were together, right? So I think from lore perspective there's no issue. And yeah, by the way guys, if you're new to this channel, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more MMO content, and let me know in the comment section what you think about cross faction. I think it's a good thing.
some servers and regions, it was literally impossible for Alliance players to find groups, and seeing that some people are really loyal to factions and wouldn't even play the Horde at all, they would just make people lose interest in the game, and that would ultimately lower the player base, which is not a good thing for Blizzard. And funny enough, it would also cause Alliance players to quit even more, making this disparity even larger. So they decided to finally catch up with the lore and to fix this problem by adding cross-faction grouping, which I gotta say overall is an excellent thing. Lore-wise, there really are no issues with this whatsoever, as let's be real, these past few faction conflicts have definitely been quite artificial. So not only does this fix population balance and grouping problems, but it also allows more people to play together. I'm sure almost all of you had an experience when you wanted to play with a friend, but that friend plays the opposite faction exclusively, or he has a really low level or item level.
This happened to me in my guild. There were some people that I really got along with well, and they decided to move over to Horde and level up a character. So what happened, those people I used to play with, some of them moved to the other side, basically, right? So I was like, what should I do? Holy shit. And yeah, the reason why I play on Alliance now mostly, and back in the day, actually, it was funny, because in my vanilla days, when I first played WoW, I was actually playing on the Horde side. I played an Orc and a Forsaken. And it was because in Warcraft 3, I really thought like the Horde was really interesting and cool. But at some point I actually changed to the Alliance for aesthetic reasons, because I'm gonna be honest, like the buildings in Orgrimmar, and same with like Thunderbluff, you literally just walk into a building, it's a freaking carpet on the ground, a few boxes there and there. And that's it. Like, I don't know why they are not decorating the freaking Horde houses, except for Silvermoon. Like, a lot of the cities look not so wow. Like, if you go into freaking Stormwind building, you have freaking chairs, tables, you have stuff on the table, you have all sorts of freaking paintings and stuff on the wall, you have so much decorations, you have flowers there and there. Like, even the windows, the way they are made, like, I feel like they put way more effort and time into the interior design and like look of the Alliance buildings than they did on the Horde side. The Horde side is literally, hey, let's just spawn a building with some comment or something that we have in our texture packs, blah, 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 and let's add 1 or 2 items and a carpet. That's how the Horde buildings feel like to me. So aesthetically, I was always like, interested in the Alliance. And even like transmogs, I feel like they're racist, like Night Elf, for example. Also the Void Elf that we got now, and Human, if you're a Warrior, for example. I feel like they look really nice in transmogs. And I'm a huge fan of dwarves. I love dwarves in fantasy novels and movies. In Lord of the Rings, for example, The Hobbit. So I thought dwarves were interesting. I wanted to play a dwarf. So that's also one of the reasons why I'm quite often on Alliance. I still play on Horde from time to time, but for the majority of my time, I'm on Alliance.
Level out in your faction, and it doesn't really end up working out for you to play together at the same pace, so that endeavor either ends up in you leveling together for a bit and then just calling it a day, or just not playing at all. Well, cross-faction grouping essentially got rid of that problem completely, which I gotta say definitely really helped consolidate the player base, which has been quite a major issue for Blizzard lately. However,
I hope more people are coming back to Alliance.
And the actual topic of this video is why. The actual reason why are so few people playing the Alliance? What is causing so many players to just choose the Horde? Is the Alliance weak gameplay-wise? Are they just too boring? Or is it ultimately just one big, massive snowball effect? Well, personally,
I think it's a snowball
I think it is a mix of all these factors, but one of them is more important than the others. While ratios are a thing, I doubt it is just this factor shaping the factions. I know some people are really into like min-maxing gameplay, and
but I don't think the ratios are underpowered. Like when I go on Blood Mullet, for example, and some other DPS pages, I often see that the races of the Alliance are pretty high. I often see Human very high, sometimes Void Elf is really high. Dwarfs are crazy high, especially on the Mage's side. So I don't think the ratios are horrible for like endgame content. Some are even OP. In PvP, Night Elf is broken. Like, let's be honest, you can freaking stealth on any class that you play and survive if you're almost dead. Like, you can like even buy some time for your trinket to have the cooldown gone or something. So I don't think the races are bad. I think the Human ratio and the Night Elf ratio is quite useful, for example, right? Especially PvP. So I don't think it's the ratios. But there's sometimes what I'm thinking, that there is also a psychological factor, because in the Horde you have a lot of like races that are struggling to survive, and their concept is they come together to survive, right? So I see like why a lot of players would be interested in that. You're like an underdog race or something that's like trying to survive against a storm of enemies and struggles, and you group up with others that are in a similar boat, right? And then together you are strong. So the way like the Horde is united for like survival, and they are having their problems, maybe that's interesting to a lot of players. Because if you look at the Alliance, like their connection is out of convenience, you could say, right? It's like, oh, hey, I have a few benefits if I join you guys. Okay, let's be Alliance. But the Alliance were not made out of like races struggling to survive. So maybe from that aspect, people find like Horde very interesting. That's what I'm assuming. That's my guess.
They just choose races over this, but usually the aesthetics of a race are more important. Actually, an interesting statistic is that back in Classic,
had it
when
very hard, right?
began, the Alliance was the more numerous faction, and it was sort of the opposite problem, although at that point there were a ton of players, millions and millions of players, so grouping was a non-issue. However, in regards to why this shifted, I just say it is a way just the gaming world changed overall, and just the climate of MMORPGs and just fantasy in general. World of Warcraft, while not a completely new genre, really was revolutionary at the time, all the way back in 2004. It was a crazy concept overall. It was just like you in this massive world, exploring zones, fighting monsters, and it was crazy that there are actual real world people in the same fantasy world as well. Do you know what also was popular at the same time? Lord of the Rings movies. So I'd imagine quite a bit of people love the concept of playing humans and elves and just fighting monsters, orcs, the undead, and all these apparently wild beings. However,
they wanted to be good or
something.
something.
Progressed, but things changed over the years as well. More races were added, MMORPGs just became an everyday thing, and the fantasy worlds just changed in general. Let's be completely honest, the Alliance is definitely more bland compared to the Horde in regards to the playable races and the choices that you have. While I'm not really crazy for a single faction.
That is actually true what Doron here says. When you look at like the models, yeah, like, okay, Night Elf is a bit different from human, but there is some similarity. Then you have like multiple dwarves, and dwarf is like basically a shorter human that's a bit more muscular or chubbier, right? And maybe like some people are also thinking, oh, the models, they have like just a couple of differences. Or if you look at Kultiran, like for example, a normal troll can't walk straight, goes like this, right? Then you have like the Zendalari troll that's like muscular and walks straight. Then you have goblins, they are small and green. Then you have like orcs, and they are tall and green. Like, how do I say that? I feel like from like the models, there's more of a difference. Or if you look at Tauren Orc, for example, or like Goblin, like there are like more model differences on the hot side, so it looks way more diverse as well, I guess. While the Alliance, their models are just like different sizes, heights, and weight models, right? Like you have the skinny model, the chubby one, and all that. Yeah, it makes sense, I guess. Like maybe people want some more diversity.
Personally, it just kinda seems obvious on first glance, even to people that never even played World of Warcraft. The allied races fix this issue a bit, but seriously, you have humans. Well, humans are cool and all, few people want to play a world of high fantasy with trolls, giants, dragons, elementals, undead, and then just play humans that you pretty much see in the everyday world. Then you have dwarves which are cool. Essentially short and bulky humans. You have gnomes that are really tiny humans. The only really unique
That's what I said,
Night
guys.
Elves and the Draenei, but they aren't really all that different than the humans, especially Night Elves. They're just taller, slender humans with ears. Later down the line, the Vorgen were added, but the Vorgen are literally humans that just transform into werewolves. And ultimately, you have the Pandaren, but that is a choice for both factions, so it really doesn't do all that much for the
Alliance should get
increase
Tuska.
the diversity. So when you examine it, pretty much only the Draenei and the Vorgen are different, but they are also quite human-like. Now, on the other side, the Horde really does offer a lot more options. Some of the races are just vastly different, unlike anything else.
Yeah, Orc and Tauren, for example.
Orcs are like the Horde version of humans, but really no races are similar to this base race, which is the case with the Alliance. You have the Tauren that are just vastly different than any other race, and even different when compared to other MMORPGs. A bull-like race that is twice the size of humans with horns. You have the undead, which
Yeah,
is
zombies.
human, but they're just a lot more sinister and scary looking. You have trolls, which are related to the night elves and are completely unique in terms of looks, culture, and just the way they speak.
And
then
their fingers,
you have
feet.
the goblins, which are a completely unique race for themselves, although some could say they're just tiny orcs. Only the blood elves are a bit more bland. But I think the addition of blood elves to the Horde actually kinda messed up the Alliance faction even more, because before, you could only play elves with the Alliance, and elves are a really fantasy thing, and as I said at the time, it was popular with Lord of the Rings, but...
I agree here. I think what they should have done, they should have given the Draenei to the Horde side, and the Blood Elves to the Alliance side, because that would have also fixed some of the balance issue between the factions. Because a lot of people love the models and look of the Blood Elf. Like, I'm gonna be honest, I have a Death Knight that's a human and a Death Knight that's a Blood Elf. And when I use transmogs on my Blood Elf, I find a lot of transmogs look actually way cooler on the Blood Elf than on the human. Because on the humans, there are some transmogs that are very bulky, but they look really cool, right? And on the human, you're a bit bulky, right? Because you're quite muscular, and then you have like this transmog that makes you even more wide. So I look literally like a walking tank or something, right? Like... Like, it looks way, like, some transmogs look literally way better on the Blood Elf. I feel like Blood Elf can literally wear any transmog almost and they look good, right? Because the proportions of, like, if something's like those shoulders that are just so wide, right? And if you have, like, a race that's, like, wide, like Orc, for example, and you put, like, certain shoulder pads on, like, they look just so weird. They look like a freaking walking, maybe, piece of paper or something, like, so wide. Like, it's so weird. But on Blood Elf, everything comes more together, basically. Even if you have like this fat armor, you look not as big.
But then, the Horde got Blood Elves, which are literally Lord of the Rings elves, and that just gave them
basically
even more of a reason to pick the Horde.
Look-wise,
additionally, even the classes changed. Before, factions were more unique, because certain classes could only be played with one faction, so a lot of people played the Alliance for the Paladins. However, when the Blood Elf Paladins were introduced, that kind of pretty much removed that entire edge that the Alliance had. So, ultimately, I'd say this is actually the real reason why a lot more people choose the Horde overall. Now,
because it's the most played race?
Blizzard has been trying to fix this problem with allied races, and I gotta say, there was actually a brilliant solution, but ultimately, it doesn't change all that much, as most of them are just additions to what is already available, just different variations. Only the Void Elves are really a drastic choice in regards to the Alliance, while the Horde got the Nightborn, which are pretty much Night Elves, and the Volpera, which are a completely unique looking race.
They look cool.
While they added more balance here, they ultimately gave even more diversity to the Horde and even less reasons to play the Alliance. So really, I'd say the main issue with this is that the Alliance is kind of a bit boring, especially for first.
And what about the Volpera and the Mechanon part? Oh, I remember when they were announced, like, everyone was like, oh, I want to play Mechanom because they have very strong ratios. And their ratios are OP, right? And then they made a Mechanom, they leveled it a bit, and they didn't like the option that they run around literally like they're just wearing diapers or underwear, because you can't freaking transmog on the Mechanom the freaking legs. And then people made a new character that had a Mechanom, and they wanted to try out the Volpera. And then they leveled the Volpera, and even though the Volpera is not an OP race from the racials, they saw, oh, the transmogs actually look interesting on the Volpera. So there was like already like some sort of imbalance. Say when like the Zendalari trolls came out. Like, people were going crazy about the Zendalari trolls. Like, I saw, like, people from Alliance, they try out the Horde side just because of the Zendalari trolls. And what did the Alliance get? Reskinned dwarves, reskinned Draenei. Like, they got, like, different models on the Horde side with the allied races. While in the Alliance, it was just reskins, basically. So I see why people would also during this time, like BFA, for example, Legion, all that, like, why they would move over to Horde.
Time WoW players. And the thing is, like, when people just start the game, they generally pick a faction and they usually stick with it and just main that faction pretty much forever. While a lot of us
No
came to
more
World of
leveling is
Warcraft
fast.
through the RTS game, so we already knew the lore. We knew that the humans aren't just real world boring humans and that the dwarves aren't just short humans. To players that come in later down the line and that are unfamiliar with the franchise, this isn't really the case. To them, these races just look generic, like what you can see in every MMORPG, and not really all that cool, so they kinda just pick the cool looking undead or the Tauren and then they just stick with the faction. Now, to combine all this, there is the snowball effect where one thing pulls another, so there are a few more people that play the Horde. This means it is easier to find a group. If you are Horde, it is faster, it is more convenient. People analyze the server populations
and then new players make a Horde
60 to
character
40
that just
ratio,
discovered
so
WoW.
they decide to join the majority and then they further increase this difference. Then, as the difference is further increased, it increases even further. Then the population difference becomes just so vast that a lot of players are literally just forced to transfer to the other faction, as it becomes pretty much impossible to find a group or to practically play the game, which on certain server just turns the faction completely dead. In this case, the majority of the cases is the Alliance. Now, it is hard to find actual statistics, as this always varies from region to region, but if you go to just pretty much any World of Warcraft statistics website, you will see it is like a 60.
Wait a second, I think I saw Silvermoon here. Silvermoon. Okay, one thing we have to consider here, guys. Like, yeah, it seems like, oh, there's just almost only Horde, there's almost just Alliance. But we have to be aware that those realms are sharing actually this like, you're in the same phase than some other realms. So they're coming together. There's like a connection. There's often like there's like 4 or 5 realms together. So if you have like, let's say Silvermoon, and on Silvermoon, it's just a fantasy number, it's not a real number. There are 2 million active Alliance players. Then this one shares a realm with another server where there's 2.5 million Horde players, for example, or 2.8 million, or even more. Then suddenly you have a bit more Horde, and then there are like smaller ones where there's like 100,000 Alliance, 160,000 Horde, and then there's like 60,000 more Horde again. And then when it all comes together, you have suddenly something like 65% Horde, 35... like, you have to be like very exact when it comes to this, right? Because I'm on Silvermoon, and when I walk around, I see a lot of Horde players, and they are not maybe accounts from made on Silvermoon, but they have after their name something else. I'm not even sure what name was it. Was it like Ravencrest or something? I'm not even sure what, but I see sometimes like Horde players, and they're from a different realm, but they're on my realm, and there are a lot of those. When I'm trying to farm like rares and stuff for like mounts, I see quite often that there are like already so many Horde players camping on my Alliance character. So I'm like, oh shit, now I have to compete with them for some rare drop or something. Like Time Lost Proto Drake, for example. I had a lot of Horde players on Silvermoon that were also freaking farming for that. And I can't group with them for the mount, right? So we had to like camp spots that were not already camped by freaking Horde. And this was tough.
Pretty much any World of Warcraft statistics website, you will see it is like a 65 to 35% ratio pretty much almost all the time. There are twice as many Horde guilds as there are Alliance ones. In some regions, this is even as extreme as an 85% to 15%.
Holy
and
shit.
There are stats that upwards of 70% of the player base that actively plays dungeons and raids are Horde, so while it might seem like it is nearly a 50-50 balance, on the server stats, if you're looking to play the game seriously, you are going to have an issue if you play the Alliance, so might as well just pick the Horde. So I'd say that what they did with cross-faction grouping is actually the ultimate solution. It pretty much just completely removes this grouping and faction disparity barrier, while also catching up with the lore, so it is really just 2 birds with 1 stone. Now, another thing they could also do is what they're doing with the Dractyr and the Pandaren, so having a race that can join both of the factions, which means that people can now play the dragons even if you're the Horde or the Alliance. So no longer are the Horde the monsters while the Alliance are the human-like races. I feel like because of these trends, it means that in expansions after Dragonfight, we might get these types of races that will be available to both factions, because if they continue adding races to each factions, it is highly possible that people just find one of them cooler looking and they just pick that one, further increasing the disparity. Thank you for watching. Check out how the Alliance got back their nails by clicking on the screen, and check out Donald's Academy for videos on real-world histories.
Yeah, for me personally, the reason why I play Alliance is just the aesthetics of like the cities and stuff. And when it comes to like questing, because I've leveled up quite many characters, I have like several level 60 characters, and the questing experience, I actually don't find it horrible on the Alliance side. But neither on the Horde side. I feel like there's some balance when it comes to questing. I don't think the quests and the starting zones are in one faction way more fun than on the other one. So when it comes to questing and even like lore, I don't think the Alliance has nothing to offer. I feel like the Night Elven lore is crazy deep on the Alliance side, but so is the Dwarven lore. Like there's a lot of fantasy and a lot of lore on the Alliance side as well. Like both have their own unique flavor, I would say. And I think it doesn't matter which side you play on, especially now, because we have cross-faction. Like what I always recommend for new players is pick what you think looks good. If you are immersing yourself in a fantasy world, what in your mind do you think you want to be in a fantasy world? Do you want to be a muscular, strong orc warrior? Do you want to be a knight of druid that is like one with nature, can freaking shapeshift into a freaking saber-toothed tiger and stuff and just scratch your enemies to death? Like, what is your own fantasy? What do you want to be in a fantasy world? I think that's what you should choose to play. You shouldn't just focus on the numbers, because now it doesn't matter anymore anyway, because we have cross-faction, right? And I'm pretty sure in the future, because that would make sense, they're also going to add cross-faction guilds. Because if the top guilds are the only ones that are doing worlds first, and it's always like Horde doing world first, they have to also come up with a solution how to not have those meta guilds do world first, but have also like the option to have some alliance kind of meta guilds, right? So what can you do for that? You add cross-faction guilds. But yeah, the issue I think with that is there's like some older content. And I can think about like Icecrown Citadel, for example, where there is some lore behind that, where actually you fight against the Alliance or the Horde side, depending what side you're on. Like with this airship, for example, like there's this airship part in Icecrown Citadel, where you are fighting, for example, if you're on Alliance against a Horde ship, right? And if they give you now the option for like cross-faction guilds and stuff, and you want to go in with your guild, right? Then how is that going to work? They need to rework like the old content. Yeah, they need to rewrite some stuff. Maybe they will do this in the future, and then there will be no more factions at all. You can be everything. Let's see. But yeah, what do you guys think, and what are you recently experiencing? What is your recent experience? Do you feel like it has gotten better if you're on the Alliance side with like making groups for like raids and M+? Or do you feel like it's still the same? I personally have experienced that it's now a bit easier to actually make groups, and I'm leveling currently a Dark Iron Dwarf Hunter and also Dark Iron Dwarf Mage. And I've noticed in like the early level zones, like the starting zones, that a lot of Alliance characters are being made these days. So I feel like a lot of people are now moving also from the Horde side to the Alliance. And maybe those are the players that just moved to the Horde side because they wanted to find groups for their keys. That's what I'm guessing. That's why there are so many low-level Alliance players now. What is cool, because eventually they will also max out, and maybe there will be some more balance between the factions. But yeah, I can't wait to see what will happen in the future. I'm very curious about the future of World of Warcraft and about what races we get. And if the Tuskar comes, perhaps it should be given to the Alliance side, so there are like more models, right? Yeah, let's see. Or maybe for both. I think for both is more balanced, but yeah, if you guys are new to this channel, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more content. If you guys enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give this one a thumbs up. I wish everyone a wonderful day. I will see you guys next time.